Tia Skinner sacrificed her father's life for a boy she'd known for only 2 weeks. Some 40 miles south, in Detroit, Michigan, Renyatta Hamilton shared a willingness to make someone else pay the price to keep the love of her man. But her journey seems to start off on the right track.
Renyatta grew up in Detroit suburbs. She lived in middle-class neighborhoods. There wasn't a lot of violence. There weren't bad communities.
She had a pretty decent home life. There was no abuse in the home, and it was a loving family. She had close family ties.
By the age of 20, Renyatta's days are booked down to the minute.
Renyatta was working at a fast food restaurant, taking on as many shifts as she could, as well as she was attending college. She was in the accounting program at Baker College studying business. She was in a cycle in her life where most of her time was taken up by school and by work.
And nothing slows down her go-getter spirit. She's willing to make great sacrifice to push through the stress of her work-college balance.
She was staying with her cousin in Clinton Township and his friend, Brian, which was a one-bedroom apartment, and she was willing to sleep on the floor just so she could be close to school and close to work.
Renyatta was a worker bee. This is a young woman who worked her tail off at school, who worked as much as possible in order to make money and to survive. When she gave her all.
But all work and no play proves to be a lonely way to spend her 20s. And Renyatta gets tired of going it alone.
Yeah, she was a hopeless romantic. She loved the classic romantic movies, and she kind of longed, I think, for that sort of a relationship, someone to be that knight in shining armor.
But the man who is going to sweep her off her feet is a far cry from the Romeo she desires.
She was headed somewhere, and she allowed him to pull her into his dark little world.
And Renyatta Hamilton throws it all away for approval from her man.
Only her desire to be in that relationship would have had her make such a poor decision.
"20-year-old Renyatta Hamilton works part-time and is on track to graduate college in a Detroit suburb, but she's distracted by her desire to find a man.
The fact that she had never really had a serious relationship kind of fueled her desire to have a man in her life.
That's why she rushes in with the first man that catches her eye. And despite his unemployment, 21-year-old Larry Stewart's dazzling smile captivates a love-crazed Renyatta.
Renyatta was hanging out with some of her friends, and they introduced her to Larry Stewart. Renyatta was initially attracted to Larry because he was thin and toned, and Renyatta was kind of on the heavy-set side, so her ideal man was exactly the opposite.
Larry knows a good girl when he sees one, so he wastes no time getting her number.
Why you need my phone? I want to get to know you better, that's why.
Renyatta may like Larry's swagger, but it's no act, and Renyatta learns she's bitten off a little more than she can chew.
Larry was a criminal. His criminal history included domestic violence, obstructing police, marijuana possession, and assault with a dangerous weapon. Not the kind of guy you want to take home to mom and dad.
For Larry to have such a lengthy criminal history by the age of 21, you have to look back to his upbringing. Probably was very dysfunctional, probably didn't have many opportunities, but certainly this was a person who didn't make the right choices because possibly the choices weren't really there for him.
But when her friends tell her about Larry's past, she decides to take her chances and give him a shot.
She was just happy to have someone to love and be loved by.
With her new bad boy around, Renyatta breaks out of her shell and starts to live a little.
Larry was able to take her out of that humdrum study work existence. He didn't have much money because he wasn't working, but he was a warm body, someone who showed her affection, and that was very important to her.
Larry started coming over to the apartment almost every day and sleeping over.
Even though she shares the apartment with cousin Justin and roommate Brian, Renyatta and Larry make a space for themselves together on the living room floor most nights. And she showers him with love every chance she gets.
She had been spending what little money she had on Larry, making sure that he was fed, buying him gifts. She was doing everything she could to maintain that relationship.
It's quite possible that living the existence she had, where it was really all work and all study and sleeping on a living room floor, Larry brought her love, and that was probably the only bright spot in her life at that point.
5 months into the relationship, Larry drops a bombshell when he tells Renyatta he owes $250 to a loan shark. Without a job, he doesn't have the money to pay it back. What's more, if he doesn't pay up soon, his life may be in danger.
Larry wasn't shy to ask people to help him. He was getting in over his head. He was trying to find ways to get money without really having to work.
She jumps into action, trying to clear Larry of his debt.
So Renyatta paid $100 of Larry's debt to this bad guy.
She was in love with somebody who didn't have her best interest at heart. She was in love with somebody who was going to do what he wanted and use anybody in his path to help him.
For Renyatta to give $100 to Larry to pay off the guy that he owed, some people would say, well, what's the big deal? That's not a lot of money. But for Renyatta, who was barely making it by financially, it was a major sacrifice, but one she gladly made because she loved Larry.
Despite Renyatta's generosity, Larry's still concerned for his life. And she can't imagine life without him, so she's willing to help him any way she can.
All right, so you remember the money you gave?
Larry proposed robbing someone. Renyatta bought into this plan. She really wanted to try to save Larry.
Are you with me?
Most couples at that stage of relationship begin to commit to one another. Renyatta and Larry decided to commit a crime.
Just outside Detroit, Michigan, 20-year-old Renyatta Hamilton has fallen in love with 21-year-old Larry Stewart. And now, she's willing to do anything to save her man's life from a loan shark.
Larry owed money, and Renyatta had only been able to pay $100 of it. Larry suggested to Renyatta that they plan to rob people so he could get money.
Are you with me?
Blinded by love, she joins forces with her criminal boyfriend to come up with the perfect robbery.
One thing that's very clear about Renyatta was she was dedicated and she was a worker bee. So when this plan came up by Larry to rob someone, she gave that her all. No matter how dangerous, she was willing to make it work.
And on her way to work, a few days later, Renyatta runs into 21-year-old Kevin Brown.
Kevin Brown was infatuated with Renyatta. Kevin worked at a local factory, and when he got off work, he typically went through the drive-thru and saw Renyatta's face. He flirted with her a lot.
As usual, she keeps Kevin hanging for the chance at a real date.
It truly is ironic that Renyatta, someone who really cherished love and wanted that in her life, would take someone like Kevin for granted. She disregarded him, treated him as if he was less than nothing.
And despite the continued rejection, Kevin hopes for a change of heart, though Renyatta's heart is in Larry's hands.
Renyatta was at home with Larry and mentioned to him that she had spoken to Kevin Brown. Larry knew about Kevin Brown. He had seen him driving a nice car, flashing wads of money, and that gave Larry his bright idea.
Kevin would cash his paychecks and keep the wad in his pocket. Larry thought that there would be hundreds, if not $1,000 in his pocket.
Larry believes Kevin's an easy target, but he'll need Renyatta's help in order to reel him in.
Think about it. I'm gonna call you though.
You do that.
The plan was for Renyatta to set Kevin up by telling him to pick her up for a date. When he came to pick her up, Larry would be hiding in the hallway and would jump out and rob him.
She puts the plan in motion and reaches out to Kevin with a private invitation to her apartment.
You can pick me up at my house Monday morning, okay? He's down, it's done.
For the first time in her life, Renyatta got what she always wanted, the love of a man. And at this point, she was willing to do anything in order to keep that relationship, even if it meant putting the life of another man on the line.
The following Monday, Renyatta awaits Kevin's arrival for their much-anticipated date.
She called Kevin to give him directions to the apartment, but they ended up staying on the phone the entire time. But she was also on the phone through call waiting with Larry.
Larry waits in the hallway outside Renyatta's door.
She was able to verify the type of car that Kevin was in, what Kevin was wearing, and she, of course, relayed that information to Larry so he knew who to look out for.
He's driving a Lexus truck, and he had on flannel and some jeans.
Kevin got out of the car and walked into the apartment building. Renyatta was listening by the door inside her apartment.
An anxious Kevin makes his way to her apartment.
Before Kevin could knock on Renyatta's front door, Larry came rushing at him with the gun out in hand pointed at him.
To Larry's surprise, this is not going to be easy. Kevin Brown is ready for a fight.
Kevin Brown, in fact, grabbed the gun in Larry Stewart's hand, and the two of them began to struggle.
Renyatta watches the fight through the peephole. That's when the shots ring out.
Immediately after the struggle started, 2 rounds were fired.
One of the bullets went right through the front door of Renyatta's apartment. A shot went off.
Oh my God, Larry!
And then a second shot went off. That one pierced the door and struck Renyatta in the stomach.
As Renyatta Hamilton watches through the peephole of her apartment door in Detroit, Michigan, her boyfriend Larry Stewart attempts to rob Kevin Brown. That's when 2 gunshots ring out.
The 2 rounds that were fired, one not only went through Kevin Brown, it went through the wall and struck Renyatta Hamilton.
Renyatta looked down at her stomach and realized she'd been shot. Her cousin Justin heard the gunshots and rushed out of the bedroom. He saw that she'd been shot and told her to go to the bathroom to clean up.
In the hall, in spite of his gunshot wounds, Kevin is fighting for his life. He wrestles Larry for control of the gun.
Kevin and Larry wound up tumbling down the stairs towards the front door. In the course of the fighting, Kevin was shot, but he still had strength enough to gain control of the gun. And he chased Larry away.
A severely wounded Kevin collapses on the sidewalk.
So during the course of this whole gunfight, Larry was actually shot once in the bicep. Kevin was shot 4 times, twice in the chest, once in the back, and once in the leg.
Back upstairs, Renyatta's too afraid to step outside. Instead, she calls Larry to make sure he's okay.
Larry?
Larry answered the phone, and Renyatta told him that she'd been shot.
I need you right now, I've been shot!
Girl, I was shot too.
He told her that he'd been shot too and to call 911. Then he hung up.
When Clinton Township police arrive to the scene, they discover Kevin laying on the sidewalk, clinging to life.
Kevin never told him what happened. Kevin's concern was so great for his life. All he could focus on was repeatedly asking for an ambulance.
As Kevin's rushed to the hospital, police become aware that a second victim from the apartment is being transported to the emergency room.
At that time, they thought that she was just the victim of a stray bullet.
Now that police are aware that the 2 victims know each other, they hope Renyatta can provide more information on what was behind the shooting.
She told them that that was her date and that he was on his way to pick her up.
But they are held off on further questioning until both victims are treated. In the ER, Renyatta and Kevin are placed in adjoining rooms, separated by a curtain. Luckily for her, she was only grazed, and the wound looks worse than it is. But Kevin is not so fortunate.
Kevin succumbed to his injuries. When Renyatta found out that Kevin had died, her reaction was cold and emotionless. All she said was, "Oh no."
It's sad to think that what Kevin saw as an opportunity to finally be with Renyatta, to find some love, actually ended up in his demise.
While Renyatta is in the hospital, her roommate Brian starts talking to detectives.
Brian told the police that he had seen Renyatta and Larry with a gun just the night before.
Police realize that Renyatta's covering for her boyfriend. They head back to her hospital room where she's discharged, and they take her down to the police station.
Who's Larry Stewart?
Feeling cornered, Renyatta gives up her loyalty to Larry to save her own skin.
Renyatta told police that it was just supposed to be a robbery and that no one was supposed to get hurt, and that her role was simply to lure Kevin to that apartment building.
She's placed under arrest for the murder of Kevin Brown. Meanwhile, Larry is on the run. He is moving from house to house, attempting to evade capture.
Once the police knew Larry Stewart was involved, they got a photograph. The media was called. His picture was placed on all the newscasts. Nobody knew where he was. The police continued to work every tip that came in.
Then, 2 days after the murder, Larry Stewart turns himself into the Clinton Township Police Station. He's not seen a doctor since his gunshot wound to the arm, and he's weak and desperate for medical attention.
He turned himself in because he ran out of options. He's got nowhere to go. He also probably knows if you go to the hospital with a gunshot wound, they have to call the police. One of the first things he tells the police is he's cold, and he's hungry, and he's in pain.
He is treated for his wound, then he is immediately taken into custody. 7 months after the murder, Renyatta Hamilton and Larry Stewart are tried for murder.
Both Larry and Renyatta were tried together because they did the crime together. They planned the crime and carried out the crime together.
Neither blame each other for Kevin's death, but neither take responsibility either.
Renyatta's defense was, though she helped bring him there, she didn't know there was going to be a robbery. She didn't know that Larry was going to use the gun.
Larry told police that he thought Renyatta was cheating on him with Kevin. So he, that morning, confronted Kevin, and Kevin is the one that pulled the gun. So Larry says he was just defending himself.
6 months after Kevin's murder, Renyatta Hamilton and Larry Stewart are convicted of armed robbery, murder, and conspiracy. Both are given mandatory life sentences without parole.
I really do think that she thought that her penalties, if convicted, would be much less than what Larry would get because he's the trigger man. I don't think she realized at all that she was gonna be looking at life in prison.
Renyatta made choices based on her heart and not her head, and the consequences were disastrous. The death of an innocent man, and Renyatta herself now spending the rest of her life in jail.
I would hope that she's regretful. I mean, for the love of a man, you throw it all away. It's mind-boggling, but some people are desperate for love and affection, no matter how it comes. I would hope that Renyatta Hamilton has some regrets for participating in the murder of Kevin Brown.
This is truly a tragic ending to this girl's first and only chance at love. She'll never have another chance at romance again.